Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. So a theme that I followed on this channel for a really long time back in the day was right to repair, and how a lot of companies make it more difficult for you to fix what you own. And as time went on, this really just kind of turned into a concept about ownership in general. If you're not able to fix what you own, then do you own it or does somebody else own it? And conversely, if you have a camera and you are not allowed to choose what server it connects to, do you own it? If you have a baby monitor and it has certain features that are advertised in the box and those features go away because the company decided they don't want to give them to you, do you own it? If you have a computer, which is what your smartphone is, and you can no longer install an operating system on it of your choosing, do you own it? And today the question is starting to come up as to whether or not you own your car. If you own a car, yet it has an antenna in it that transmits data on how you drive back to the manufacturer, who sells it to LexisNexis, who sells it to insurance companies, do you own your car? Now, almost everybody watching this channel is aware that Tesla cars have computers in them, and they are constantly transmitting God knows what back to home base on a regular basis, and that many modern vehicles have a lot of computerized crap in them that makes it very difficult for you to say that you own what you bought and paid for. Things can be locked behind a paywall. BMW can say you don't get heated seats even though the heaters have been put into your seat, because the computer says no, you haven't paid your monthly subscription. And now it's really starting to get more egregious, where many of these companies are doing what I like to call EULA Ruffian. End user license agreement, the thing that you sign when you install software or an operating system or start using your car. Roofing, which is the practice of drugging somebody so that you can get them to consent to something that you typically would not be able to get them to consent to, because if they were in their right mind, they would say no. This is something that we tend to accuse rapists of, and I really do keep trying to hammer home that many modern tech companies, and now admittedly many companies that use this type of technology within their products, have the mentality of rapists. And I would like to read some excerpts from a New York Times article here and then give you a couple of my thoughts. So the first part of this is Ken Dahl says Ken Dahl. I'm sorry, I just heard that as Kendall. There was a friend of mine who was a model in our inner circle, and one of my other friends always used to call him Ken Doll to make fun of him. Anyway, Ken DAHL says he has always been a careful driver. The owner of a software company near Seattle, he drives a leased Chevrolet Bolt. He's never been responsible for an accident. So Mr. Dahl, 65, was surprised in 2022 when the cost of his car insurance jumped by 21%. Quotes from other insurance companies were also high. One insurance agent told him his LexisNexis report was a factor. Upon Mr. Dahl's request, LexisNexis sent him a 258-page consumer disclosure report. So these companies are required, if you ask them by law, to send you a report on the data that they have on you. And what he found is more than 130 pages detailing every time he or his wife have driven the Chevy Bolt car over the previous 6 months, and included the dates of 640 trips, their start and end times, the distance driven, and an accounting of any speeding, hard braking, or sharp acceleration. According to the report, the trip details had been provided by General Motors, the manufacturer of the Chevy Bolt. LexisNexis analyzed that driving data to create a risk score for insurers to use as one factor of many to create more personalized insurance coverage. 8 insurance companies had requested information about Mr. Dahl from LexisNexis over the previous month. So let's get this straight. So you bought a car. The manufacturer of the car has a computer and an antenna in your car that they utilize without your consent or permission to absorb information on everything you do in your car, and then sell that information to data brokers without informing you. Again, in many of these videos, people will fight back. Lewis, you are using inappropriate language. How dare you say that somebody is a rapist? When that is what this is. Without consent, they are taking something from you that you did not consent to in a way that makes you feel personally violated. If that is not an appropriate noun and verb to use, I don't know what is. Car companies have established relationships with insurance companies so that if drivers want to sign up for what's called usage-based insurance, where rates are set based on monitoring of their driving habits, it's easy to collect that data wirelessly from your car. And again, just to be very clear, Geico offers this as a feature. You can get a beacon installed in your car, or you can use your phone. Tesla offers this as a feature, but what they do is they require that you opt in. You have to explicitly consent to these features. I have no problem with these features existing if I have to opt into them and explicitly consent. If I explicitly consent, that's fine. If I do not consent and you do not tell me you are collecting my information and selling it to random fuckfaces, then it is not okay. Automakers and data brokers that have partnered to collect detailed driving data from millions of Americans say they have drivers' permission to do so. Really? You really show me where you got that fucking permission. And again, this really comes down to one of the things I talked about in the video that I did on Sony and Discovery, where they were telling people we're revoking access to your content. On their page, they say that you are purchasing the content. But then on page 21 of a legal agreement, it says that you are simply purchasing a revocable right that can be revoked at any time to be able to watch the content. And it's one of these things where, again, if you have to put it on page 21, like, you know, I'm writing on the napkin that you're going to sleep with me tonight no matter what, and because it was on the napkin, you should have read it because it was on the bar. Like, it's this type of just rapey ass shit where you know in your heart and in your soul that if it said next to the add to cart button what you were putting on page 21 of the EULA, that you would lose 95% of your customers, which is why you hide it there, you rapist pieces of garbage. They have gotten permission to do so. But the existence of these partnerships is nearly invisible to drivers, whose consent is obtained in fine print and murky privacy policies that few read. EULA roofing. I have a GM car, a Chevy. I went through the enrollment process for a smart driver. There was no warning or prominent disclosure that any third party would get access to my driving data. I repeat, I went through the enrollment process for smart driver. There was no warning or prominent disclosure that any third party would get access to my driving data, says a reporter. I don't know the definition of hard brake. My passenger's head isn't hitting the dash, he said. Same with acceleration. I'm not peeling out. I'm not sure how the car defines that. I don't feel I'm driving aggressively or dangerously. Now, some people who may have tried Teslas with full self-driving back a couple of years ago, back before the feature was really refined, who am I kidding? It's just not refined now. But before the testing feature to figure out if you're a good driver was refined. Allow me to correct myself. Tesla had this thing where it would try to tell whether you were a good driver, like how hard did you go around corners, would you have hard stops, stuff like that. And one of the things you may have noticed if you used a Tesla and tried to get full self-driving in 2019, 2021, is that it considered hard braking literally any time you hit the brake. So if you use the regenerative braking, you're good. If you so much as touch the brake like this, you would get hard braking. And not only is this inaccurate, but it's fundamentally unsafe. If I hit my brakes because I need to hit my brakes, that is safe. Whereas if I don't hit my brakes because I'm trying to game a computer and I'm like, okay, I'm going to play a game of like chicken, flip a coin. Like, am I going to stop right before their bumper with only regenerative braking, or am I going to smash into it? Like, it kind of encourages people to play those types of games to game a shitty system, which is fundamentally unsafe as it is. I genuinely believe that most of these systems are garbage, and I would just suggest that you try them yourself to see. The way that you have to act to game the shitty AI that's trying to guess whether you're a good driver winds up causing you to make decisions that are actually unsafe. Again, saying, okay, I need to stop so slowly, like let me just try to stop all the way up here and make people mad so that they start swerving around me because I'm going too slow, versus, okay, let me stop further up, but I'm not going to hit the brakes. I'm just going to kind of hope that regenerative braking stops me naturally. These type of driving decisions are genuinely dangerous in my opinion, and it's just these systems are just not what they're supposed to be. And separate from that, let's just think of other circumstances. Let's say that I am on a racetrack. There is a major difference between going on, Laconia, New Hampshire, and going on a racetrack or going to any sort of racetrack in New Hampshire, where essentially, like, I am in an environment, I'm wearing a special helmet, I am on a track that is literally straight. There are, there's rules, there are regulations, there's safety involved, there's a line, and then there is so much room above the line, so if I forget to brake in time, I'm still fine. Like, what if I was at a racetrack? Because you have to keep in mind, Chevy is doing this. Now, if they're doing it with the Chevy Bolt, which is about slower than my bike, but they could also be doing this with the Z-Series Corvette with a 0 to 60 in 3-point-something seconds. I mean, if you think about it, if you're spending $100,000 on a car where the primary feature is fast acceleration, if you take that car to a racetrack and you use it on the racetrack in a responsible way. Again, I'm not talking about going on I-35 and going 180 miles an hour on New Year's Eve. I'm talking about using it in a responsible way. You now have your insurance hiked because this garbage system sold your data without context. And you have to understand, a lot of this is lacking context. It says that it literally has every piece of information besides the location that you went. Let me repeat that. This system is collecting every piece of information besides the location. Now, you may think, oh, wow, that makes it better. They're only like half violating me. But in reality, in my opinion, it's actually worse. If you are going to grab information on my acceleration and my stops, I would really appreciate that, again, if you're going to do that, at the very least, see that I drive like a sane person on I-35, which makes me 1 in a million, and that when you see me hard accelerating and hard braking, that I'm doing that on a racetrack where it is designed for that purpose. There are rules, again, regulations, configurations and setups that make that considerably safer, but you're not collecting that information. There's no context to that information. And above all, you have no fucking right to that information. The last thing that I want to go over here is that I'm actually happy that this happened with General Motors and Chevy, and that this is not something where we're only talking about Tesla. And I want to kind of dig into that a little because I know I'm getting a lot of pushback. I am not a Tesla fanboy by any means. That being said, the reason that I'm happy this is not about Tesla is not because I'm a Tesla fanboy, but rather because I think that by talking about what Apple does or Tesla or John Deere, rather than discuss these as societal issues, we are making them a scapegoat for what is, in my opinion, a societal issue. Every single company is trying to do this thing where they design unrepairable products or make them difficult to repair. Every single company nowadays is trying to act in this way where it's not enough that you pay for the product. We also want all of your data for ourselves as well. Many of these companies have this type of rapist mentality. And by pretending that Apple is the only cell phone or computer manufacturer that does it, by pretending that John Deere is the only tractor manufacturer that does it, and by pretending that Tesla is the only car company that does it, rather than come together as a society and push back against this, we just tell people you're an idiot for buying an Apple, you're an idiot for buying a Tesla, you're an idiot for buying a John Deere. And that gives cover to every other company doing the same thing. One of the things I've talked about many times in this channel is just when it comes to this issue in general. Let's see if I can find this. 2020. So, even just when it comes to the issue of right to repair, a lot of people will rightfully bring up how anti-right to repair Tesla can be in many ways. But one of the things that they don't understand is that almost every other major automaker actually spent millions of dollars. They all spent, as you can see here, General Motors $5 million, Toyota $4.5 million, Ford $4.4, Honda $2.9, and Nissan $2.4 to have a coalition called Coalition for Safe and Secure Data create ads that implied that if you had your car fixed by an independent mechanic, that you would be assaulted or sexually assaulted in a parking lot, or that somebody would break into your house and rape you. There's this idea that there are these sole individual companies that are pure evil and everybody else is just fine. And what that does, again, that mindset kind of gives these types of companies the cover that they need to do the exact same thing. If everybody's blaming Tesla, then nobody's going to notice when Chevy's doing it. But I want you to notice when Chevy's doing it. I want you to notice when Ford's doing it. I want you to notice what Honda or Hyundai or Kia or every other automaker is doing it. I want you to notice it when every laptop manufacturer does it. I am making this video on a ThinkPad from 2016, but the moment that Lenovo does something stupid, whether they tell me that I am breaking the law by making a choice to sell my cell phone after I have installed an alternative operating system on it, or they're saying that the entire used market is something that should be avoided, just give us all your money because of spyware, when they installed spyware on people's computers, I want you to be critical and skeptical of every one of these companies. Even the companies that make products that I use and like, I look at them critically. I don't tell myself this is the only company doing wrong. I am making a proper decision and buttoning up my polo shirt to the top button professionally by making such a better buying decision than this other idiots in this forum or IRC channel that just doesn't make choices as good as me. At the end of the day, regardless of which company you're buying a product from nowadays, there's probably some way that they're looking to screw you. And if they're not looking to screw you today, they may be looking to screw you tomorrow. And I always want you to have your eyes out for it, peeled for it, and to not have your identity as a human being tied up with the companies that you choose to make your purchases from, because at some point they will disappoint you. I want you to look at this like I made the choice to purchase from this company because they had the product with the pros and cons that were best suited to what I was looking for at the time. Not because you have taken their phallus down your throat and you believe that that company represents your identity. Don't let Chevy get away with it. Don't let anybody else get away with it. Hold them to task and hold them to account. We point out the companies that are the first to take part in a lot of these anti-consumer practices, whether anti-right to repair, anti-privacy, or just this type of rapey shit. But we point that out because we want everybody to understand that if they get away with it, everybody else tends to have it's one of those things where they're like, oh, he made money off of it and got away with it. Did anybody care? Yeah, they yell, but not really. They kept buying it. Okay, let's do it too. You think that General Motors is giving that data away to LexisNexis for free after they've taken it from you? No way in hell. And that is after they have charged you in full for the goddamn car. Are they sharing any of that money that they made from selling your data to LexisNexis with you so that you, at the very least, are profiting from your information being violated and put out there for everybody to see? No, it's not right. And it's not something you should tolerate. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I think personally, we should band together rather than making fun of each other. You're an idiot for buying a Ford, found on road debt. You're dumb for buying General Motors. You're a sissy, you bought a Tesla. At the end of the day, we're all getting fucked. And the worst part of it all is that we are more than happy to tear each other apart before we ever hold a company that we've given $10, $20, $40, $80,000 of our money to. And I find that to be a crying shame. I'd like us to try and come together. Let's come together a little bit more often. Hey, like, I have a truck. You have a, a Tesla, whatever the hell else. You have a Chevy Bolt that kind of looks like a smart car. But if I don't stand up for your rights, you're probably not going to stand up for mine when they come for me. At some point, they're going to come for you. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.